Alright, return to form. Haven't heard a thrash metal from this band since Injustice for All. We got Metallica's Death Magnetic. What's going on, ladies and gents in Cyberland? Coming back to another album review, and this time we're on to Metallica's 9th album. Oof. Death Magnetic. So, after Saint Anger, and for a while, myself included, I think we were just kind of like, just wait and see what Metallica comes out with. Hopefully, it's not like Saint Anger. Just as long as it's not like that, I didn't give a shit if it's anything like Load or Reload or Black Album, anything before. I don't care as long as it's not sound like Saint Anger. I'm good with it. And then The Day That Never comes out. And for the most part, and also by this point they have a new bassist, Robert Trujillo. He came in during Saint Anger, but he didn't record on the album. He came in after the fact the album was done. He's a great bassist. Really, just a really good bassist. So we hear The Day That Never Comes. At the time I was like, it sounds cool. I don't really... It kind of gave me vibes of One. And I was okay with that. I didn't feel anything bad about it. I just was like, it's cool. I wasn't excited. I was just like, okay, cool. And about a week or two before the album dropped, I was able to hear it, acquired it. And when I heard That Was Just Your Life, right when the beginning started, I was like, okay. You hear the heartbeat, and then you hear a couple of notes get played. And at first, I was like, no. Am I hearing what I think I'm hearing? And then when the guitars came in, but they weren't fast yet, they were at like this, slow speed. And drums, I was still no. And then as the music sped up, and it kept speeding up, and it kept speeding up, and it kept speeding up, and then all of a sudden James started coming in with the lyrics, and I was just like, I was like, oh shit. I'm like, is this what am I hearing? Is this what? And the song kept going, and it kept its pace. It was very fast, and then Kurt came in and did his thing on the solo, and it kept going. I was just like, I think this is a thrash metal album again, because I didn't really pay attention to what was being said in the media, and being asked questions. I was just kind of like, I had a lot of shit going on at the time. I was already, my girl who was I was about to be a parent, so I was going through a lot of stuff right now, and music was not one of those things I really could concentrate on, and I just happened to come across the album when I did, and I was completely blown away from what I heard. The End of the Line, and All Nightmare Long, Cyanide, and then Judas Kiss. But then the other thing is an instrumental. Got an instrumental again after all these years, these decades. Suicide and Redemption, and I was very happy with what I heard. As soon as the album dropped, I went and bought it, and I loved it. It was a return to form. I always say, Rick Rubin had said this because he said this is the album that should have came after Injustice, or if it would have been after Injustice for All. And I'm like, absolutely 100% agree. was this the album that Metallica should have released after Injustice? At the time, I felt they should have. But now looking at retrospect about things, like, no, this needed to be, everything came full circle for a reason. And I loved it. It's one of my favorite albums by the band. However, this is the controversy, and this is an issue for me, and I'm sure it's an issue for a lot of people. There are two versions, really three versions of this album. The one you bought when it first came out. Then there was another one that was remastered for free where the fans could download the tracks off of iTunes, because I guess there was something about the noise or something. There's something about people will make music too loud to where you can't hear the sophistication of it, or something like that. And they said this album was one of those albums, and it caused the problems, really distorted, and it didn't sound right. And people were feeling some type of way about it and voicing their concerns. They weren't saying the album was bad, they were just saying it was noisy, but not for the sake of the right reasons, I guess. And then the other part. So apparently, Death Magnetic, before it was finished, there was a version of the album that was put for Guitar Hero at the time. And the Guitar Hero version of the album sounded fucking better than the ones that we bought. Meaning the guitars were more prevalent in the track. The drums were still good, but the guitars, there were certain parts of the song that had guitars where the album you bought did not. The bass was more prevalent, and especially Suicide and Redemption, how it starts on the album, it just goes dun, 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 and it just, the volume increases when you hear the song. But on the guitar version, you actually have it starting out where Rob is playing bass, and then gradually the guitars come in, they come in like low level and start increasing as he's playing bass, and then it all comes together. That's an example. The guitar work for the end of the line for the Guitar Hero is totally different, or there's elements that are in the Guitar Hero that should have been in the album that we bought. And then the solos for Suicide and Redemption, there is a longer cut of those solos for James and Kurt than what we bought. And it caused a huge problem, because then fans literally took the tracks and remastered them, and you can find them online. I'm just telling it like it is. I got them, because I'm just like, even though the album is a good album, this part was fucked up. And it should not have happened. And what gets me is that how is it you release the Guitar Center version that's the best version of the album, and then the album that we paid for is subpar to the actual Guitar Hero version? And there's a bunch of excuses or a bunch of issues, but at the end of the day, it's just not good. I think this is a huge problem. And this is why I don't give the album a 10 out of 10. Because I think it's a classic album. I think Death Magnetic was a beautiful written album. And then you got the extra tracks that come with it beyond Magnetic. And even, Lars said, hey, we give you guys the intro that you can put on for My Apocalypse. And I spliced the two together because I think it goes perfectly with it. But because of those issues, I give the album a 9 out of 10. If that gets fixed, if it ever does, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. I thought this album was great. And again, I don't think the guys are listening to what I'm saying. I'm just a guy who makes content and speaks from the heart when I listen to this music. But I really hope and pray, pray that as they've been releasing these box sets from the older works, I pray that once Reload, if they do Load and Reload, I don't know if they would do Saint Anger, but if they get to Death Magnetic, I pray that you guys take the Guitar Hero version of this album and tweak it a little bit, but make that the release that that should be the album that if fans are buying a box set of Death Magnetic, they should have either the one that you guys released that we fixed for the iTunes stuff, that you have that as one you can listen to, or you have this one, and then you make your choice on which one you enjoy more. At this point, I don't think it's going to hurt anything. I mean, the album's been out for over 10 years, getting close to 20 years, so it's kind of like, would it hurt your brand or hurt you guys to just put it out? I mean, all the fans are going to say, well, you should have done it in the first place, but fans are still going to buy it anyway, so it's just like, why not just put it out? I mean, it's just one of those things where you guys are human. You guys make mistakes. You're not without fault. And if we, the fans, are willing to buy it, just put it out there. Because we shouldn't have to swipe files online to have the better quality of what the album should have sounded like, because the Guitar Center version is the better of the album that's been released. It's just more fuller than what we ended up buying, kind of thing. And I'm not mad. I'm not feeling some type of way about it, because I have both. The one I listen to is the Guitar Center version, of course. But I look at it as like, it just goes to show that, look, no matter how much we think about our bands and our hip-hop groups and stuff, they're human and they're fallible and they make mistakes, and they're not without fault. And it's okay to be that way. It doesn't, it just goes to show that we're none of us are perfect, and we all can fall and make a bad call. But you just get back up and dust yourself off and try to do better the next time. And I think musically and for the most part lyrically and everything was fine with Death Magnetic. I have no complaints about the album at all. I didn't dislike any tracks. I didn't dislike any songs. I loved every minute of it. It's one of my favorite albums by the band. But at the same time, I just feel like we need to have the version that was given to the Guitar Hero game, that needs to be remastered and put out if you guys are going to do a box set. You guys have the tracks. It's out there. You might as well put it out there so we can listen to it. I mean, Justice for All is an entirely different situation. But at the same time, you guys have the stuff. There's no point in trying to withhold it, because the fans still can listen to those Guitar Hero tracks to this day. So might as well just put it out remastered, and it doesn't hurt you guys. It doesn't hurt the legacy of you. I mean, people are going to bitch and complain regardless, but at least put it out to where people like me can listen to it and enjoy it and say, hey, this was the version they did for this and this version did for that. Well, what happened? It's like, well, they kind of made a mistake. They did it this way thinking this was the best course, and it wasn't, and that was it. It's okay. So anyway, my top 5 tracks, That Was Just Your Life, The End of the Line, Cyanide, My Apocalypse, and the Judas Kiss. And an honorable mention, Suicide and Redemption. I loved that track. The only reason why I didn't put it as my top 5 is because there were so many songs and lyrics and such, but I completely loved Suicide Redemption. I teeter between To Live Is To Die or Suicide Redemption being my top instrumental track from the band to this day. I loved everything about Suicide Redemption. So sometimes Suicide Redemption and Lives to Die, and then vice versa. And then I would say Orion, and then I would say Call of Cthulhu. So anyway, as far as should you listen to this album, absolutely. It's a return to form, and to me, those who like the first 4 albums would definitely like this one more than Load and Reload. And like, I mean, of course, it's better than Saint Anger. So this is kind of, if it was like the locker room thing I've been saying, Death Magnetic would be hanging around the locker room of albums 1 through 4 as opposed to the other 2 locker rooms. So, yeah, it's cue the music.